A title is going to be appearing now under your name, and it'll say former terrorist. Is that precise?
And currently a reformer of Islam. I prefer the second one because this is the one that I belonged to a radical group, yes, but I never did an act of evil. I stopped before doing it, so I was theoretically brainwashed, but I refused to continue the process to take it to the level of violence.
So tell us about that, about your past in the terrorist event.
I was a simple child, was born in Cairo, Egypt, 1961, for a very secular family. I developed motivation toward religion and God, and because of this motivation was very high, I became a member of an Islamic group. I belonged to Jama'ah Islamiyya in our medical school, where I met on a few occasions with Dr. Ayman al-Zawahri, second command of Al-Qaeda. He was a great leader for many Islamic groups back then, and he was graduated from the same medical school. That's why he used to come occasionally to pray with us and give us some lectures. So I was mentored by him, the second command of Al-Qaeda, personally. My dream was just to serve God, nothing more than this. And this dream and this passion has been used in certain way to create a jihadist mind or a violent mind that accepts sort of violence. I wanted to go to Afghanistan to share there. I thought about doing crimes in the name of God. And thank God, in the critical moments, my conscience wake up and I refuse to continue.
What stood behind that, the will to do these crimes, to attack?
It was basically this form of religious teaching that made the change in my mind. It was not poverty. I was from a wealthy family. It was not lack of education. I was in the medical school. My father was an orthopedic surgeon. My mother was a French teacher. So it was not lack of education or any of this stuff. It was basically religious forms of teaching that instructs us to use violence with non-Muslims or with Muslims who do not conform to our value system.
Regarding the enemy, who was it? Was it the West, any non-Muslim, the Jews?
West, but particularly the human rights values and women rights were the first enemy for us. Strange, but this was the first enemy, truly. Women rights. That's why when you see radical groups controlling any place, the first thing they do is they suppress women. First thing, before anything else, they tell women not to go out, to wear the hijab. They suppress women. So the first enemy was not a political enemy, it was women rights. And this is what we typically hated, and the West represent for us the guardian of women rights, and that's why we hated it.
So tell us about the event or the events that caused you to say, this is not where I should be.
Actually, I was invited after I became radicalized to a certain level. I was invited to contribute to some crime of kidnapping a police officer, killing him by burying him alive in a grave. So the whole concept of digging a grave for a human being who's alive beside the mosque and burying a man alive there was for me just beyond my ability to comprehend, and it was too much for my human conscience to accept something like that. So I felt there is something wrong here, and since this happened, I started to take steps backward, to go backward, to start to think and to develop other form of teaching or ideology or education to counterbalance this radical way of teaching Islam. So I used to speak in mosques to other friends. I was well known in my medical school to be a person with different views and opinions within Islam.
How did they react?
The Jama'ah Islamiyya initially started to discuss the issue, my views, aiming at attracting me again to them, okay, bringing me back. But I refused, and my logic and analysis within the religion was relatively more powerful than their logic or analysis in my interpretations were relatively more logical. So they couldn't win me at the ideological level here. So they started to threaten my life, and they were threatened many times, but I lived with it. So it was for me part of my life, and I'm still alive here.
Now you're here visiting Israel, a country dealing with terrorism for centuries already, basically. What is your message to the Israeli people, to the Jewish people?
My message to them is, you are a great nation, And in the most difficult times in history, when the Nazi was putting the Jews in the ovens, you managed to get out of it. You managed to build a great country that respects human rights, and don't let your country surrender to barbarism. Fight for it. Use every tactic you can use, from military, educational, ideological, psychological, to stand against terrorism, and trust that the people who build this great nation are great people, and they will continue and they will make our world better. So trust that you can change the future.
Really, there's a big debate in Israel. Do we make concessions to calm things down, or do we fight? Do we act determinedly?
Never do concessions to radicals. The more you do concessions, the more they attack you. For example, when the radicals attacked U.S. embassies in Kenya and Tanzania in 1998, the response was weak. This was seen as concession or weakness, and this encouraged the radicals of Al-Qaeda to attack U.S. again on September the 11th, within 3 years. So, you see the cartoon issue of Prophet Muhammad. The radicals didn't demonstrate for 4 months period until the magazine apologized. Then they start demonstrating. So concessions means nothing for them but a green light, an invitation to attack you more. So my advice to you, never do concession.
Are you afraid?
No.
Why not? You mentioned that people threatened your life.
Because I trust him, the Lord, not myself or my power. So I trust that I'm doing something good, and I will die one day. And if the radicals manage to kill me, they will not kill my voice. And if the radicals manage to kill me, there will be thousands of Tawfiqs Hamids coming to stand against the evil. So I'm not worried.
On an historic level, do you look back at the days of Abraham, Ishmael, and the history of the Jews and the Muslims? How do you see that?
I see it's fascinating to learn from history. And I see the Muslim-Jewish relations can change dramatically if Islamic scholars start to adopt different ways in teaching within Islam. So I think the responsibility is now on us, the Muslim world, to change, not on you. I believe you did your best, and it's our turn to do something. We always expect concessions, and the world also expects concessions only to come from the Israelis and the Jews. But it's now our turn to do some form of concessions, otherwise the problem will not be solved.